Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are taking a look at chapter 41 of Kaiju number 8, and I've said before that I don't often laugh. I don't often just burst out laughing when I'm reading a manga, and I did not burst out laughing while I was reading this manga, but I have to confess that when I saw the cover art, I did in fact burst out laughing. Oh my goodness. A lot of my thoughts recently have been focused on the newest character, Captain Jin Narumi of the First Division. And I've been working up this kind of, I don't even know if I'd call it a theory yet, but just my first impressions of him. And this chapter did nothing to dispel those impressions, and they only strengthened them to a large degree. And this cover is perfect. There's no spoilers. It really doesn't have anything to do with the chapter itself. So I can't see anything wrong with going into a detail. You have Jin Narumi sitting on what is obviously a throne, or meant to look like a throne. It's actually just one of those fancy office chairs that you do find in the office of military commanders. But he's sitting on it like it's a throne, and he's got a crown on over his hoodie, and in what normally would be the hand holding a glass of wine, he has his own particular poison of choice. It's a game controller. He's wearing these, I don't know what cultural significance they have in Japan, but just they're just basically black tennis shoes, fancy black tennis shoes. He's got his nice ankles on display with his crossed legs, and just this pouty expression, and you get the feeling that he's trying to go for dignified, but he's just coming off pouty, and he just has the chaos of his room around him, the trash, the empty bottles, the bottles that I hope are empty, the off-brand koala beer, and all of his action figures, including the koala action figures in the background. It's hysterical, just a perfect representation of how he's been presented so far, his attitude, this mixture of dignity and imposter syndrome is really what I think. When I'm done laughing, the word that comes to my brain is imposter syndrome. You get a guy who's wearing his daddy's uniform and pretending to be a soldier, but he really is a soldier. And I love this cover. This is an awesome cover. That being said, all right, now there will be no spoilers. This is the spoiler-free review. But here's the plug for my book. Go check out the links below for the copy of Humans Are Weird. I have the data available in ebook, print book, and audiobook. A short story collection looking at the absurdness of human nature, as clearly illustrated by this first panel of Captain Jin Narumi. Now, some stuff does begin to happen in this chapter. This is not an action-heavy chapter. It's more of a character development chapter. It felt far too short. This chapter is 25 pages long, including the first page, and it did not feel like that is, a 20% increase on the standard chapter length we used to get, but this feels just as short as the chapters that are basically just Rock'em Sock'em Robot chapters. And I did enjoy it, and there's a lot to go over here. There will be a lot in my full spoiler review, but for this one, I would just want to focus on how the artist is depicting Jin Narumi. You have this weird mix of extreme competence, confidence, and just utter immaturity, and I think that's really, really going to play into his relationship with Kaiju number 8 and Kafka going forward. Going in, my first thought was that director Shinomiya put Kafka in the First Division so that he could be under the supervision of an officer who was 100% willing to take him out if need be, so that he could. My thought at first was that the powers that be, but especially General Director Shinomiya, wanted to put Kaiju number 8 in a situation where he could be useful, but he would also be closely watched by someone who would have no sentimental ties to him, by someone who can make the cold, calm, logical decision. And at our first glance at Narumi, it looked like that's who he was. But then we got our formal introduction to him. We saw how childlike we could be. Okay, this is a guy we thought who was a balance of this extreme childishness and this extreme maturity. But the more I look at it, the more it seems to me that Narumi is going to be a prey to sentiment. That Narumi, for all that he does seem to have his head on straight when it comes to protecting people, for all that he does seem to be a genuine shonen protagonist, and that when the chips are down, he does the right thing, he is still very much a child, and this chapter emphasizes that. For instance, without any spoilers, on page 13, we get an awesome page and a half spread, and we get a look at Narumi's face, and this is clearly meant to see an awesome kick-butt scene, but look at Narumi's eyes, look at his face. That is the face of a child. And yes, he knows what he's going to do. He's going to go out and do something he's competent at, and that's mitigating it. But there's just this general impression of immaturity. And with immaturity comes a lack of practical applicable principle. For instance, the principle that would say if Kaiju number 8 rampages, he has to be taken out without regard to Kafka's humanity, because Kafka's humanity ultimately doesn't matter if Kaiju number 8 is going to kill people. Even Kafka would agree with that, especially Kafka would agree with that. What I think we have here instead is a situation where Kikoru is going to be far more likely, if Kaiju number 8 ever rampages, if it ever comes down to that, Kikoru is going to be the one who will far more likely be capable of taking Kaiju number 8 out, regardless of her affection and genuine love for Kafka, than Captain Narumi would be. We've already seen that Kafka's charm has started to act on Narumi. That's how Kafka got Narumi to back off and actually accept him as a member of the First Division in the first place. And it looks to me like Jin Narumi is just going through the motions of being a cold, calculating, ruthless commander. I think that is what he thinks a commander needs to be, and that is what he is trying to be. But I've been listening to a lot of Horatio Hornblower books, and you have this captain who is trying to be cold and ruthless and detached, but is actually very sentimental. And while he loathes himself for his sentimentality, he can't actually help it. And I think that might be the situation we have here with Captain Narumi. I think even already Kafka's charm has gotten to Narumi, and I think that at this point Narumi might be able to take Kaiju number 8 out if he had his chance, but as soon as that relationship really starts to develop and Kafka really gets under Narumi's skin, I don't think Narumi would be capable of taking out Kaiju number 8. Not physically capable, yes, but just not emotionally and mentally capable. Like I said, I think Kikoru's true love of Kafka and her devotion to principle would allow her to successfully take out Kaiju number 8 if he was actually posing a threat, whereas Narumi's sentiment and general affection and his lower level of discipline would prevent him from, when the chips are down, from taking that final shot. Again, not right now, not at this moment, not in this battle. The relationship between Narumi and Kafka isn't advanced enough for the sentiment to overpower the discipline, but it's not going to take long until the sentiment does overpower the discipline. So that's my theory. That's just something I'm throwing out there, something that the impression that I really got strongly from this chapter, that when General Director Shinomiya put Kaiju number 8, Kikoru, and Narumi in a platoon, he was expecting Narumi to be the main benefactor from the Kafka-Narumi relationship, and that Kikoru was actually Shinomiya's ace in the hole for actually taking out Kaiju number 8 if it ever came to that. So, we'll see if that is where the author is going. There will be a reference point to it somewhere later in the story. So I'm looking forward to seeing if I'm reading the creator right at this point. Just some general notes on the chapter. The world building is so amazing. This isn't really a spoiler, but it is something that's kind of specific to the chapter. We get to see the phone apps that exist in this world to help people deal with the kaiju situation, and it looks really good, like a well-developed app that we could have with today's technology. And there's just these fun little details, like you see the people reacting, making choices based on the information that's presented to them, and we get some more about we also end up getting some more information about Narumi's reputation in the general population, and the general population knows that when the chips are down, he's going to protect civilians, but we see it through a very interesting perspective. This is another reason, the child connection. We see this through the eyes of a child, and through this child's interaction with Narumi's reputation. Again, just as we saw a lot of Kaiju number 8's reaction through the eyes of children. And just on a side note, something I just realized right now, one of the things that makes this series so realistic and so enjoyable is that in most manga, the age range is limited. You might have one or two Tolkien old wise people, but generally the age range of the people that you see on the screen is going to kind of center around the main cast. Whereas with this manga, you get a general accurate representation of a population, both the population within a military setting and the population of the general civilian. There are old people, there are young people, there are middle-aged people, and they're all interacting and reacting in the way that you would expect them to. This creator humans very, very well. And so the world building was excellent, and I was just extremely pleased with some things that were very much in line with what I was expecting from the next step in the story, but that'll all be saved for the spoiler review. I just love, and then we get another situation where the author is playing with us, is toying with the audience. So we have, it's a matter of Narumi's reputation, and it's a real will he, won't he situation, just like the entire attack on Tachikawa base was a will he, won't he, is Kafka going to have to transform? And then you have this real will he, won't he, is Captain Narumi going to do this thing? And it's just very entertaining. And then, of course, the chapter ends on a cliffhanger, and it's going to be another 14 days before we get the conclusion to this, and I can't wait. Okay, the spoiler review will be out on Sunday. Click on links below the video for a copy of Humans Are Weird. I have the data available on Audible, Amazon, pretty much anywhere where you can buy a book. It's online, it's available. Audiobook, print book, ebook. This was a fun chapter. Leave your comments below the video. What did you think about it? Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.